Hello there. It's time for Most Things Kenobi. Shouldn't it be All Things Kenobi?
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Most Things Kenobi, a podcast about Obi-Wan Kenobi and all things Star Wars. I'm your host, LeeAnn.
And I'm your host, LeeAnn.
And I'm Jenny.
Yay!
Yay!
I'm your special guest host. I don't know.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, we have a really special episode today. We have a guest, our first official guest.
This is our first interview, and somehow we've managed to do this successfully so far. Yes.
Fingers crossed, yeah, all the way. But we have Jenny with us today from Jennie Marie Studio. She's an amazing artist on Instagram. And do you have a profile anywhere else, or are you mostly just on Instagram?
I'm pretty much just, Instagram, Jennie Marie Studio, and I sell things currently through my Etsy, which is the same, Jennie Marie Studio. I haven't quite made it over to Twitter, or I have a couple little TikToks here and there. I'm working my way up to that, but I just like to post pretty pictures.
Pretty pictures of your very pretty art. You have amazing art.
Yes.
We've said it 1,000 times, but it needs to be said another 1,000 because your stuff is amazing. I don't know how you do. I don't understand artists because I'm not one, and I don't know what it's like to have that kind of talent. But you translate some of the Star Wars scenes and other scenes from different fandoms, if you will, so wonderfully on such a small canvas. You know, like I don't know how. It's amazing. It's truly amazing.
Well, thank you. I don't know. I fell into it, but I just love it. I've been a Star Wars fan since I was 12, 13 years old. So this is like, I never in a million years would have believed that I would be able to do this and be able to actually sell them and make these as a grown-ass adult. So
Yes. Well,
and I love it.
Well, it's the perfect segue because you've been working on a Padmé collection recently, and today we want to just do like an all Padmé episode where we do a roundtable about it because you and LeeAnn and I all have very similar experiences coming to love Padmé because we didn't really start with loving her, and it has grown over time, especially mostly I think for me Clone Wars, but I think for you too, LeeAnn. And is that where you started loving Padmé too, Jenny?
Yeah, I would say Clone Wars for sure, when we just, and it's funny because, you watch Clone Wars and then you go back and watch Phantom Menace, and I'm like, I get those parts of her personality, and I appreciate them more in the actual movies. But when I first saw them, I had zero attachment to that character. So I think it was Clone Wars really fleshed it out, and and that's just the beauty of a show, like having the time to do that, and she was able to get some justice. I feel like
I think the problem is that she's an excellent character with excellent qualities, and I don't think that her full potential was ever really brought out in the first three episode 1, 2, and 3. And then we really got to see more depth to her. I didn't mind her so much in Revenge of the Sith. I liked her the most there.
Oh, interesting.
But I don't even want to get into Attack of the Clones. It's just weird. And like Anakin's maybe my favorite character, my top 3 at least. He's right up there with Luke. I just have never really have been partial to Padmé. I've read some fanfics that made me like her even more because there's more depth to her, that we get more depth in the Clone Wars and in stories that people have written. And I mean, you're reading the novel right now, right? What's it called?
Yeah.
Queen's Peril?
Yeah, I got the audiobook. I got the hardcover book of the Queen's Shadow, but then I decided to do Queen's Peril first, which I guess is a prequel. The events come before it. And it's actually centered right around the events of the Phantom Menace, which is interesting because it kind of gives you like more behind the scenes of that movie. I mean, it literally takes place in the same time period. I've got a couple chapters, so I haven't quite finished it yet. Yeah, I'm really loving it. I think I realized, I was actually trying to think about this, like why, I mean, I know that Padmé started initially growing on me, and I've said this before, it's just recently having made friends who were part of the prequels era, and like that's their trilogy, the way the original trilogy was ours. And just like one of the first commissions I did for a candle holder was a votive of Queen Amidala. And I remember when my friend asked me, she was almost like, I know you might not be excited about this, but could you do, like, she was kind of like, could you maybe, and I was like, okay, at least you didn't ask me to do Jar Jar, but that's Queen Amidala, okay. But honestly, like, just listening, that's where it started for me, is because I didn't really think about Padme ever. I'd made my peace with the prequels. I'm fine with them, but I really, like, I was like, no, okay, she's cool. I don't hate her. But yeah, when I met friends that would talk about her and what an inspiration she was to them at a young age and how influential that kind of character was. And again, I didn't really understand it at first, but it softened me to like, okay, well, I want to explore this. I want to understand. But my love of her has grown genuinely. Like now, I'm not a fan of her just because I have friends that like her. And I'm like, okay, no, now she's genuinely, like, I just ordered some artwork from my apartment of her. She's made it onto the walls with Princess Leia and some of my favorite characters of all time. And I think the reason for that is the time we're living in. Like Padme, and you get a lot more of this in the books and like her inner monologue and in the Clone Wars. She's just the type of politician, the type of person I feel like I'm just dying for in real life. With the state of the world, with the craziness of our political system, I'm just, her integrity and her just genuine passion and belief in the effectiveness of democracy. And if anything, I mean, I've read things about her, like she actually came closer to kind of foiling Palpatine than any of the Jedi did. And he almost several times, he had to quickly move around to kind of get ahead of her. And we just never got that from her, you never would have really gotten all this development earlier on. So I think it's just the timeliness of her characters has really endeared her to me.
Well, it's interesting you bring up the Palpatine. It goes right in line with what we were saying in our last episode about how he had to get rid of her. And that's why Lauren and I think he drained her of her life force to get rid of her. She was a problem since the beginning. When they're from the same planet, they're from the same atmosphere, if you will. Not actual oxygen atmosphere, but like political, senatorial atmosphere, if you will. And yeah, she was a thorn in his side since day one. And not only that, he eventually twisted how he could use her to basically get Anakin more on his side. The whole thing's just a shame. It's terrible because she was a young and brilliant woman.
Like, he underestimated her, but then I think he kind of came, because I mean, it's Palpatine. I mean, he, in all of Star Wars, he is the master chess player at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
And yeah, like when you guys, your last podcast about that, dying of a broken heart. I mean, Palpatine being involved is the only way I can make peace with that whole.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense that someone of that resiliency,
dying of a broken heart. Just
right when her kids need her the most. It would be one thing if she died and then the kids, like, they somehow rescued the kids from her body. I mean, if she had passed as, but she was present and cognizant as she was birthing the children. I don't think she would have gave up on them for 1 second. It just doesn't fall in line with what we know about her character whatsoever.
Yeah.
Oh, she's losing the will to live and we don't know why. I mean, like, I could understand even if, again, in a totally different universe where she wasn't pregnant, wasn't carrying twins, like maybe Anakin dying, okay, she loses the will to live. But yeah, it doesn't make sense with him leaving, but she's bringing life into this world. And like that, I don't know. Again, at the end of the day, it was George Lucas needed this plot device to happen. And so he focused on a certain part of that. And I ranted on Lauren's Instagram messages about for 20 minutes after I listened to your last podcast. But I think Lucas he wanted that. I think he was so myopic wanting that, which arguably is a great juxtaposition. Vader rising and Padme falling, and an emperor telling him, well, you killed, and using that to further manipulate Anakin and kind of put the nail in the coffin, so to speak. And I get that. It's just, but George Lucas, again, I hate using lazy and George Lucas in the same sentence. He is not lazy, but it was a little bit of lazy story writing. Like, I think he just, and again, to be fair, it is Anakin's story. It's about Darth Vader, but still, man, like, the mother of Luke and Leia, like, Padme is an important freaking character. She deserves more than she's losing the will to live. I don't know. It's almost like literally, like, I don't know. She's dying. You guys just figure it out. I don't know. She just like, that's how I imagine George Lucas. Like, no, we need to get this shot, work on the special effects. I don't know. She just has to die. Make it work. Make it happen. I don't know.
You guys figure it out.
Broken heart. I don't know. Broken heart. Sure. She just needs to go. Like,
Well, we're still working on Wikipedia, the people at Wikipedia, to change that. It's the platform I'll die on, I swear to God. I've been in talks with them.
Yeah.
They're in my
We'll sign a petition.
Well, they slid on into the DMs on Twitter, so I've been in touch with them literally. So we'll see. But
Lauren, that's awesome. I love that.
Nah, they're good folks. They just have a typo in there. She didn't die of a broken heart. She died of Palpatine syndrome, but it's a typo.
We have enough, right? That, like, I don't know. I'm not a Star Wars, like, lore expert. There's so much these days.
I can't keep up with
No
it.
one person can keep up with all of it, I guess. But isn't there's some... I mean, there's supportive evidence, right? I mean, I think there's comic story or something that said like that Palpatine was had something, was actually like drawing her light, or is that all just headcanon? I can't remember what you guys said last time. Or
I think it's officially just headcanon at this point because the official explanation is that she really did die of a broken heart, which is just so fucking enraging. But we also ran polls. We ran a poll on Instagram and on Twitter, and they were split 50-50. People are like, it was so close in each poll. The people kind of like, half the people think she died of a broken heart and a half think she didn't. I was disappointed.
I do wonder if some of it is it because they don't like the characters, so they automatically think, because I'm rooting for her.
Or maybe just because it's technically actually how she died.
that's
Like, according to the official statement, that is how she died. Yeah, I just feel really disappointed because there are so many other ways to maneuver Padme into an untimely, sad death. It felt like they just smashed it in there at the end.
Yep.
And, like, she and Anakin were never, in the movies, I'll say, because in Clone Wars it's a little different, but in the movies, she and Anakin are never that parallel on their plots. They're always kind of diverging from each other, so to suddenly have him diverge again to the point where it breaks her heart and she dies of a broken heart, they didn't establish enough of a downfall. They literally didn't split their views far enough by the end of Revenge of the Sith. Just that one scene where she says, you're going down a path I can't follow, that was enough to, like, make her give up the will to live, apparently. Which is, like, so enraging to me because your life shouldn't matter because you're with a partner.
Bingo.
Your life matters because you matter, not because Anakin loves you, you know, like...
Yes.
So that plotline, it's very typical in romantic relationships in film, but it's not a healthy relationship. So yeah, that the whole thing about Padme, just, she wasn't done right. I feel like all of Revenge of the Sith, I like her. I feel like Natalie Portman's performance is really good in it, but also I feel like they just made her like barefoot and pregnant wife back at the house, you know, instead of being the like senator who's always an orator on the floor of the Senate fighting for democracy.
Yes.
Well, that's like, so as you're saying that, like, I was thinking in my head, I'm like, so her love for Anakin is a strong defining thing of her character. And I've read some interesting, I also have had trouble making peace with that relationship because, again, through my eyes, I see it as abusive, kind of like Anakin is unbalanced. And I mean, even in Clone Wars, the series, I mean, the scene with, oh my gosh, what's his name? Where he has that jealous outrage of, I'm blanking on the guy's name, but
Rush Clovis.
Yeah,
Yes.
Clovis. That kind of thing. I mean, it's like
That's insane.
and like an abusive relationship. I mean, that's scary. And there's another scene I remember being so pissed at in Clone Wars, actually, where I think it's around the same storyline or something, where she's saying how she's got like a Senate voting to go to or something, and he makes some comment to her that's like literally essentially boils down to, oh, so that's more important than me? You love that more than me? And I just wanted to freaking throw my remote at the TV screen. But again, like, that is, Anakin is a villain. He is an anti-hero, a villain. Not, okay, I should be careful here. He's becoming Darth Vader. The point is he's allowed to further story and is supposed to have these like dark moments. Okay, anyways, I'm getting ADD here, but I gotta focus myself back. One tangent. But so yes, her love for Anakin is important, defining, devastating to lose him to the dark side. And at the same time, though, her other primary love, passion in life is democracy, is this system. So I could almost see a way where if they had developed it a little more, where she's actually viewing or seeing the Republic fall, that it was both those things together, literally seeing democracy crumble, the thing that she cared about and loved most, and losing Anakin at the same time, and kind of just having maybe that be too much. Again, I still don't really buy it, because I just still think the core of her character is hope, is hopefulness, is positive, is like, no, I would see, she'd be like, all right, I've got my twins, let's start building the rebellion. Like, I could see her being the one that formed the rebellion, and like,
Yes.
Literally, Bail took up that flag for her because she died. She would have been the one to do that with Bail at her side, because he stuck by her since day one, basically, and then after, she died to raise her daughter. But Leia has so much of her in her. And Luke, too. Let's not short stick Luke on the amount of Padme in him. They've got equal qualities of both. But, like, you were saying that, and it made me realize why I had such a problem with Padme in the beginning. And it's because in the, like, we'll say when she was first introduced, she was an instrument to further Anakin's character. And I don't like any character that's used just to bolster another or forward the story of another. She deserves to be her own woman, because she is, and then the Clone Wars kind of built that a little bit more, gave her more of her own voice and her own passions and things that weren't so connected to Anakin, but of course they are forever linked. But I have never liked their relationship.
Yeah.
The reason I like Anakin as a character is because he's the most, we'll say, multi-level, multi-layered, difficult to understand, but interesting because of it character. He's got so many issues. Good guy turned bad guy turned good guy is my favorite formula. But he's got so many problems that it makes his progression interesting. And unfortunately, Padme never had that. She was just used to, like, show that Anakin was this, or show that Anakin had these kind of issues, anger issues, impulsivity, impassioned emotions and quick to anger, that kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, I mean, Anakin's another one where the clone, because I didn't like Anakin at all, like, when I first saw the prequels, but the Clone Wars really, I was like, okay, now I get, like, I appreciated Anakin a lot more with the development he got, and I started to like him more. Like, he had in the prequels, I just didn't like him. And again, I know he's supposed to turn into Darth Vader, but I still felt like, I'm still supposed to feel differently about this character.
I just love Darth Vader because I've always felt he was misunderstood. Not defending him or excusing him, but there's a psychological aspect there that I thought was not being picked up on as heavily as it needed to be. Not excusing, not defending, just psychoanalyzing.
You're our resident Darth Vader apologist.
I am. It is what it is. Because I was thinking about Padme and Ahsoka, and like she's the daughter that Padme and Anakin kind of raised together, if you will, because Padme had such a different influence on Ahsoka than Anakin did, but you get to see their parenting styles, or what would have been their parenting styles with Ahsoka, and you can tell Padme loved her too. Loved her and respected her, more than just as a Jedi.
Yeah, and I mean that's another quality in So one of the things I'm loving about Queen's Peril, which I've heard kind of mixed things about. People have mixed feelings about the books. I've heard some like Padme fans kind of want other authors to really take her on, and we're kind of, but I don't know. For my intents, again, just as like a character study, I love this book because again, you're getting to know Padme just as she was elected. She's 16 years old, like she's a teenager, and learning about, I mean, the way they kind of collect the handmaidens kind of reminds me of like Nick Fury getting the Avengers together. Like,
oh, is that so?
It's awesome. I'm loving it.
I'm gonna have to read this book.
I'm doing the audiobook, and it's the audiobook is narrated by the woman that does her voice in the Clone Wars.
Oh my god, even better. Who's fantastic at bringing Padme to life in a different manner, I would say.
Oh, I forget that it's not Natalie Portman when I'm listening to her. Like, she's got it down.
It's Kat Tabor, I think.
Yeah. And the way that this book, so again, like so many things, like when I first saw the Phantom Menace that I just didn't appreciate about Padme, again, I saw all the characters as being just very cardboard, like, why are they all talking like this? Like, there's no blah, blah, blah. But again, where this like other materials kind of fix this is, then learning about how the handmaidens are selected together and how they have to find, kind of an official royal voice so that they can switch out with each other and not be discovered. And they really so again, Captain Panaka goes and kind of collects them like the Avengers. Like one of them is really good with clothing and fabric and design. One of them's really good at communications technology. One of them's really good at, they all have these different qualities. I like the way that E.K. Johnson has written them. So they're all these like super smart, clever, capable young girls. They are girls, 16 years old. Again, they're smart, clever, like they're kind of defying those stereotypes, but at the same time she does write in the drama, them kind of not getting along with each other, kind of having like little spats and stuff, but you just really get such a heartwarming view of Padme and the way that she, you know, listens, and she's like, she doesn't have an ego about her, because again, for her, being a leader, being queen, like this is something she believes in. It's not a title. She's not looking for glory. She's not looking to kind of, I don't know. And so the way that she kind of navigates this and creates this relationship with these 5 handmaidens, they almost turn into this like organism, like they're one creature. And it also kind of reminds me of like an animal. I don't describe it like an animal, but like in the wild, how an animal might have like camouflage to kind of make itself look bigger. So the clothing and the outfits, which when I saw the movies, I saw is like, okay, well, of course they give the female character the pretty outfits, and that's all we're going to talk about. But in these books, you learn like the work that goes into the costumes, the purpose of them, how they make her appear larger than life, distracting, the way that because of all the makeup, the costumes, they can switch out with these other 5 women and no one ever knows how many there are, where they are. It's a disguise, and all these ways to kind of make up for what a 16-year-old girl might lack in stature or respect, you know, how they're able through cleverness and ingenuity to wrap around that. And then just the unusualness, again, you know, we live in a patriarchy, and but seeing this matriarchy run, I don't know, it's just really wonderful. I'm really enjoying it.
I was just going to bring up how I think you and I have talked about the handmaidens in the Darth Vader comic number 4, of how Vader goes back, I think it's sometime after Empire Strikes Back, maybe, or it's before Empire Strikes Back, I can't remember, but he goes back to Padme's grave and the handmaidens are there and they confront him and say, we will not let you desecrate this grave. You have to get out of here. We know, like, you're a part of her death. You need to get out of here. Like, it's this whole scene in the comics, which I totally and utterly respect. The handmaidens stayed true to her even after death. Like, they were devoted to her and stayed near her grave as a protection force almost, or they caught wind and went there. I can't remember the exact details, but the fact that they even did that is totally respectable.
That's a kind of loyalty that, again, comes from not just this is their job and like this is my king or my queen. Like, that's a loyalty of like a deep respect for her and understanding of her. And like in the books, I just feel like it does a pretty good job of showing that, you know, of showing why they become so loyal to her. It's just really interesting. And again, something like I didn't even understand what the handmaidens were when I first saw the movies.
It makes me wonder if George Lucas intended that from the very beginning or not, because he's terrible at writing women. So to think that he had that much foresight, yeah, it's like,
love you, George.
Honestly, who doesn't love him? Because without him, none of this would even exist. But like, I think E.K. Johnson seems, is it Johnson or Johnston?
I think it's Johnson. I have the book right here. Hang on.
Yeah. I would say George Lucas, he's good at setting up awesome female characters. Like Leia is amazing. Padme is amazing. He's just maybe not good at like really seeing them through or keeping up. They always kind of tend to just blah, 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 like trickle out because his focus is not them. But he's good at setting up a good, strong character.
It's Johnston.
It is Johnston.
I have the Ahsoka book. That's why I just went to reference it.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, well, I would definitely see her as being more capable of developing this kind of network of these handmaidens. I love what you're describing. Like, I love the idea of them being able to swap out, and they're kind of like this Amazonian guard that would give their life for her, which they have. Some of them have died protecting her. First of all, to be a young girl or a teenager seeing these possibilities, you know, in stories that maybe they didn't have representation in sci-fi. You know, usually women are like a sex pot in sci-fi. They're basically there to like wear bikinis and have their boobs pop out and be like a temptation, which is what I didn't like about Anakin and Padme's relationship in Attack of the Clones in particular, because she's dressed like a temptress and she's treated like a temptress and she keeps saying no, and Anakin keeps looking at her like he wants to like devour her, and it's creepy. To have it turn and like have somebody like a woman develop the handmaidens and Padme with a more realistic approach and make them more than just a mouthpiece or a sex piece. It's like, it's so nice to see that and to have that available to young girls now. But also, my other point is like, who of you at 16 would have been a queen? I'd have been terrible at 16. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing when I was 16.
Dude, I have diary entries of when I was 16. No one wants me leading a country.
I have never been able to control my mouth, and you have to be able to control a lot more than just your mouth. You have to have poise and composure in that role, and she had it at 16? Get out of here.
Yeah,
That's
not me.
That's respectable.
They talk about that too, about how so essentially, like, by becoming queen, like, I mean, even changing her name, like, Padme is gone. Padme is no more. Padme is now an anonymous character. And she talks about that, like, one of the most important things is learning controlling her emotions, and having to learn to be stoic and kind of just when she's in public. And then there's when she can let her hair down, then when and that's what's so special about the handmaidens, is the handmaidens get to see both sides, like herself and her kind of political face. I would say, like, I've made a peace with Attack of the Clones. I genuinely love a lot of Attack of the Clones. It still creeps me out. I just can't help it. Like, the scene by the lake, like, the way he looks at her and touches her shoulder, it just makes me uncomfortable.
Well, that dress it's a beautiful gown. The colors. I mean, the dress is the hair piece, the gold piece in her hair, the way it's done. I mean, absolutely beautiful, but damn, that back.
Like the black dress, like.
And the black dress with the BDSM notions to it.
Yes. Which is probably like one of my favorite dresses of hers. It's so beautiful, but at the same time, it's so like, that scene is so uncomfortable. It's so, she keeps saying no and he keeps hearing yes, and it really, really bothers me.
It's really unnerving. Yeah.
And it's weird. And I don't know if maybe other authors, like, again, maybe EK writes about this more in the rest of the books, but learning how intentional her outfits are, there's so much thought that goes into every piece of everything she wears.
That's true.
Like, then it makes me think again, like, what is the purpose of these dresses? And again, it goes back to making you think it's just, at the end of the day, it's just George Lucas. The focus is Anakin. Here's a beautiful woman, shows some more skin because it's showing Anakin lusting after blah, blah, blah. But the piece I've made with, like, and again, I personally will never, I don't love that Attack of the Clones romance. I love watching the movie, but I will literally kind of have to zone out when they're talking to each other and saying how deeply, truly they love each other. It's just what I have to do for my own mental health, and we all need to make those decisions, you know?
Yes.
But I have read some interesting, you know, by a lot of the Instagram accounts that I follow and stuff, you know, someone, I'm blanking on who posted it, just something about, like, look, at the end of the day, it was written across the stars. Like, this was a destined Anakin and Padme. The Force declared it because Luke and Leia needed to happen and the balance needed to happen. And look, you know what? I can be okay with that and then just say, okay, well, she's this strong, awesome character. And look, I consider myself a strong person. I've still been in some really shitty relationships that all my friends were like, what? Why? And it's like, look, it happens. And, you know, chemistry is tough. I don't get it. And the other thing that's given me some peace about is he's creepy and awkward, but, you know, he, again, with his upbringing on the desert, being a slave, and then joining the Jedi Order, he hasn't talked to a lot of women. Granted, Obi-Wan doesn't seem to have a problem being super smooth, and Anakin is just awkward around women, and he loves Padme, and it's just, I don't know. It'll always be a little uncomfortable for me, but I can be okay and understand that they're destined in the stars because Luke and all of this just had to happen. And
he's that awkward little boy who had a crush on the older girl, and that never really went away. You know, it just, a lot of his affection ended up turning into anger and defensiveness, you know, especially with the Clovis arcs.
Yeah.
Well, it turned into possession.
Yes. Yeah. And that's where, I mean, that was essentially the rule. I mean, that was the lesson in the Jedi Code, right? You can't possess anyone. You can't, I mean, that's a lesson for all of us, really. You can't make anyone do anything, whether you love them or not. They are their own person. And he never got that.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just steeped in loss. He was so afraid of losing, you know, and so I get the motivation behind it, but it comes off as real awkward and creepy, like you said. In the writing, you know, of it all.
Well, like, I just wanted, like, that was the one thing, again, going back to this this one episode of Clone Wars that I hated this scene when she was again talking about, like, I can't remember the exact date, but somewhere important, like again it was a Senate meeting something, and him being so dismissive, like, oh yeah, that's more important than me. Because one of the things I liked in Attack of the Clones, besides there's sappy schmooshby blah blah blah, is the like when they're kind of bantering with each other, like when he's like, I've given up on, you know, trying to tell you, or like, oh, like, you know, and or Obi-Wan being like, Padme looks like she's on top of things. Like, that's like when Anakin makes those little jokes about her, but in a really, that to me is the few times in the movies where I like them together, because it feels like Anakin loving something that is truly her, like recognizing her strength and her passion for this, and like, all right, like I've given up trying to, like, kind of not a submit, but just like appreciating something that's real about her. And that makes me believe, okay, that the love is genuine, which again, going back to the episode Clone Wars, is like, him, well, you like that more than me, that's the opposite of that, not appreciating what is the essence of her and what, you know, he should love about her, I guess.
Yeah. That's why I kind of love that episode with Clovis, the first one, because they start the episode with Anakin acting like his duty is more important than their relationship, and she feels like a little affronted by that. And then when she does the same thing, he's enraged. And so she was just giving him a taste of his own medicine. And like, you could see that the equity in their relationship is never fully there. It's always like sliding back and forth like a pendulum. One feels powerful, the other one doesn't. It's just kind of like, I don't know how they ever felt safe in their relationship together, honestly. Because on top of their own like certain incompatibilities, like his tendency towards dictatorship and her love of democracy.
Yes.
But like, there was always that secret, you know, they were starting their relationship on a lie, kind of, where they couldn't tell people that they loved each other. That's always such a precarious place to start, and it never goes anywhere good.
Yeah.
Well, although, like, and now I can't remember if I read some commentator mentioned this, though, that, which again, you get more of this in the books, that having that secret relationship with Anakin, because she has to split herself with these two, and she's used to doing that, it felt like something that she got to keep for her, like Anakin's relationship made it special because of that, which I was like, okay, like I kind of.
Yeah, I like that. That's actually, I don't think it's like a bad scenario. I think it's like a very interesting, compelling like story, because forbidden love, it's kind of forbidden love, but that's always very compelling. People always want what they can't have. And so I think that's good storytelling. It's just that like by the end of Revenge of the Sith, where they're kind of, you were saying too, which I thought was so smart, that Leia kind of ended up in this similar situation in Return of the Jedi, where they've been building her up over these episodes where she's this strong leader, and then in Return of the Jedi, she's in the gold bikini in a chain and like kind of doesn't do very much in the whole episode.
Well, I mean, she killed Jabba,
which is fucking awesome, in her gold underwear, but
yeah, I mean, that's a feat right there.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting parallel you pointed out there.
I would like to say that Leia, it makes you appreciate Han a little bit, because there was no doubt that he understood who Leia was, didn't make her anything other than what she was, never once asked anything of her, that, you know, he knew his place and he knew hers and respected her. I mean, he chided her a little, you know, princess, you know, but it was always
teased her mercilessly.
Yes, but I mean, it was never out of disrespect. I mean, it
was
banter
and it was mutual, yeah.
Yes, and so like he always understood his place with Leia, and that her devotion to the cause would always come first, and you get that in a couple books written about Leia, Leia-centric anyway, and that really makes me appreciate, although her and Han didn't work out in canon, I do appreciate their relationship, because it was more mature in that respect, I think.
Yeah. Let them be who they are. And yeah, that was like, and that's, I guess, going back to like what I was saying, like George Lucas he knows how to write, like set up a great female character, like both Leia and Pat. I mean, Leia, especially for the 1970s, I mean, she was incredible. Like, like A New Hope Leia is still my favorite. Somebody get this walking carpet out of my way. Like,
there's nothing better. It's the reason why I love Star Wars, is because as a kid, when I first saw it, she was just like, I have never seen a character like this. I immediately love her, you know, like, so I can kind of get where like you said, Jenny, the prequels are their original trilogy, like to that crew, that they view Padme in the same respect that we view Leia. She was our first exposure to something of a character of that caliber.
And I thought that was so like beautiful. Yeah, when I heard women talking about the influence of her at that age, and it almost made me wish, because I was 17 when Phantom Menace came out. I was like, I was just old enough where it just didn't. I was a snarky teenager who loved the original. It was too different. But I almost wish, I think if I'd been maybe 12, 11 going into my teens, I'll bet I would have, especially if then Clone Wars and the rest, I'll bet Padme would have become that for me. But yeah, he knows how to write them, and both of them start out, like now when I watch Phantom Menace, even with the Phantom Menace's writing issues and pacing and whatnot, I think criticisms I still have, I even love her in that, like her going to the Gungans and the way she is so smart. And again, with her, it's always talk it out. Democracy before war, democracy before violence. And her recognizing that to win them over is they need respect. And they have felt being able to perceptive enough to understand what the issue was, coming forward saying, okay, this is a time where I need to be myself, not my handmaiden. And orchestrating that treaty is huge. And her, like a lot of her little quips, the way she kind of stands up to Qui-Gon and is like, no, I'm coming. Like there's actually a lot in the Phantom Menace of her when I watch it now with all of the kind of context I had that I genuinely love about her. But again, she kind of devolves a little, gets pushed to the side. And by Revenge of the Sith, like Lauren said, she's running around barefoot crying all the time. And it's kind of the same in the original trilogies. And I hadn't really thought about that literally until I was listening to you guys' podcast. And it was kind of the same. Leia starts out like really, confident, quirky. And by Return of the Jedi, she's in a gold half-naked bikini locked up. She still gets her moments, but now when I think back on Return of the Jedi, and Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie. Love every minute of it, but she does, even in that one, she kind of gets pushed to the side a bit. And granted, fine, it's Luke's story, it's not hers, but I don't know. It's just kind of an interesting parallel between those, kind of a pattern.
She kind of gets like replaced by Lando a little bit.
Yeah.
Who I love. I love Lando, but like once he comes in, he's like Han Part 2, and like Leia becomes the support character then.
Yeah, he takes over kind of. Yeah, that's true, actually. He kind of takes over some of the kind of banter and quippiness. Like Leia's there. We still see, interesting moments, but by that point too, she's wearing the Ewok, the dress, and her hair's down, and she does become a little more of like the fragile princess, where in like Empire Strikes Back, she's like, everybody out of the control center, ion.
Yes. Which I love.
And like, okay, you go there, and now she's like, hold me, and she gets a little bit of that, like, yeah, which again, nothing wrong with showing feminine and strength. Like, I also, that's something I think I appreciate both these characters, and Padme especially, is we don't need every female character to be Black Widow, this stoic, the man, the guy's girl, another, like, one of my favorite characters was Mara Jade. From the Legends books, and Mara Jade, and I still freaking love Mara Jade, but she, in my memory, it's been a long time since I've read the Thrawn trilogy, Heir to the Empire and all that, but she was more of like that Black Widow, badass, stoic, mysterious, like badass. And I gravitated towards those characters, I think, because a lot of us were raised to see femininity equals weakness, femininity equals lack of strength, and to have a character like Padme and have these characters that we're getting more of now, more representation, where like Wonder Woman or something, like it's okay to show both compassion, to cry. Like what I like about E.K. Johnston's book is there's a little bit of teenage girl drama, which is fine. I no longer need to see that as like a bad negative, because I've been conditioned, oh, that's bad, I don't like her. Or like the same way the criticism that Ahsoka got when she first came out. Oh, she's she's an annoying teenager. Yeah.
It's like, that's realistic. They got to start from somewhere. And as a teenager, I think that's a fine place for them to start. We were all whiny bitches back
teenage girls are annoying. Teenage boys are freaking annoying.
And I don't mean bitch as a woman. I mean bitch as in like we're all bitches, men and women. It's not a gender specific term. We were all just whiny. How about that?
Whiny bitches.
Yeah.
So Jenny, you have a Padme drop coming. Is that true, or are these Padmes you're working on commissions?
Yeah, no, this will be a drop. And I'm really bad about drop dates because I don't know, I just always am insecure about being close enough to actually finish them, but I decided I'm gonna drop them January 26th.
Oh, wow, so that's soon.
Next Wednesday. Yeah, I feel like they're in a good enough spot that I can get them finished in 10 days.
It'll be the day after we release this podcast.
Oh, really?
Yeah, perfect timing.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I really wanted to do this as just like a kind of exploration and focus and celebration of her character. I also had heard from like quite a lot of Padmé fans that there's just not a ton of Padmé merch, Padmé stuff out there. And I just wanted to celebrate her. So yeah, I'm doing a collection of, there'll be 10 votives, a couple of them featuring just her gowns, I'm doing kind of like an art hybrid kind of her in like this like gilded frame, kind of celebrating her, and then a couple pieces with her and Anakin as well.
How exciting.
I'm working on my own website very slowly but surely, like everything I do. But this will be on my Etsy because I will not have my website done by then, so they'll be dropping on Etsy.
Okay. Well, we'll make sure we'll put a link to you in our show notes so people can find your website, your Etsy at least, and your Instagram.
Yeah, and Instagram's the best place. That's where I usually will post like countdowns. Like, I mean, people are interested in purchasing them. I post my countdowns and previews of things coming out and stuff like that all through Instagram. And like I said, hopefully I'll have a website up soon.
Well, and I can speak from experience because I own several of your photos. They are fucking gorgeous. I highly recommend people check out your shop and buy stuff.
Yes. This was fun.
This was really fun.
I love it. I enjoyed this so much. And it's so fun to talk with just such like-minded fans. And
yeah, we'll have more of these kinds of episodes with you and others, and maybe all of us together. We've kind of tossed around the idea of having a giant round table on topics, like all women. So kind of fun to think about. So thanks for being on with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Cat down.
Did you hear Clarence? Did you
Yes,
hear
I
him?
did.
He's like, "Wee!" Sorry. So turning it over to all of you, we would love to know, what is your favorite Padmé moment, or why do you love her, or why do you not love her? If that's the case, we would love to know. So chime in on our social media.
Join us next week for an episode where we talk all about our savior.
Yes, our hero.
Our hero, James Arnold Taylor, the one and only voice of Obi-Wan Kenobi from Clone Wars.
And the man who so graciously recorded our intros for us. I mean, and shouted us out, which we will talk about next week.
Yes, amazing. Yes, he deserves our love and support. He's been so kind to us in particular, and we just want to dedicate an entire episode to him, so we will do that next week. Last week on the show, we reviewed 2 short stories from the collection A Certain Point of View from Empire Strikes Back, and we got this wonderful comment. Echo Base on Instagram, who is an amazing artist, by the way, please go check them out, left us this awesome comment. I love, love, love There Is Always Another, and have read and reread it so many times. It's such an in-depth look at Obi-Wan and Anakin's relationship and the trauma and guilt he lives with. I couldn't agree more, Echo Base. I feel like Obi-Wan carries a lot of complex emotions, and it's really interesting to finally see a story where he gives voice to that trauma. So for anyone who hasn't checked out From a Certain Point of View, Empire Strikes Back, we highly recommend it, especially the short stories There Is Always Another and Disturbance. If anyone has any suggestions for other books or comics or video games or anything that you would like us to check out and review, please don't hesitate to let us know either on social media, or you can always email us at mostthingskenobi@gmail.com.
Thank you so much for joining us here on the Most Things Kenobi podcast. Remember to follow us on Tumblr, Twitter, and Instagram, and don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast player. Plus, you can always find us over at mostthingskenobi.com.
So, until next time, my space twin, may the Force be with you.
Always.